I think a lot of us have had a fun night out before. I'm not talking about Yahtzee and nachos with the grandparents, I mean a night out on the town. Maybe it starts out wholesome and ends up evolving into a bit of a bender. Or maybe the intention from the get-go was to see where the night takes you. As long as it's controlled and no one or no thing gets harmed, it's alright to let loose once in a while. Well, sometimes all it takes is that one night of events to change your life forever, sort of like what happened with the Dragonborn. Believe it or not, our world-saving, dragon-slaying, Thuum-saying hero has one weakness: alcohol. In today's video, I wanted to go through Sanguine's Daedra quest featured in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. This one is a lot of fun, and honestly, it's more centered around comedy and the what next factor than it is lore. Either way, for this video, I'm going to go through the quest and listen to the dialogue. Then, at the end, I'll try and offer as much lore as I can. If that sounds interesting to you, then sit back, relax, and enjoy a tale from the Elder Scrolls. The adventure starts off with the player entering any inn or tavern in Skyrim. Personally, I chose the Bannered Mare in Whiterun, as that's my Dragonborn's hypothetical third place. If you're level 14 plus, you'll likely notice that something's different in the tavern. The bar is a little more crowded than usual. Walking up to each NPC, everyone in here is a regular, except for one man. His name is Sam Gweven, and he has an intriguing proposition for you.
If you're looking for a challenge, you've come to the right place. A few drinks, a few laughs, and a contest. What could be better? Ha! We'll see about that. This is a special brew. Very strong stuff. Let's get started.
Thinking you can take this stranger on in a contest, he starts things off by chugging the first one.
Your turn. One down, my friend. One down.
How about
An even 1-for-1, Sam continues the match by slugging back the second drink. He then passes the torch back to the player.
we've been
And
down
how
this
about
road
you?
before, Mikhail, for your lady friends.
So says
I
you.
just need
I think I've hit my
life.
limit on these things. Tell you what, one more and you win the contest.
It's clear from my character's dialogue that he's had one too many, but in the spirit of the contest, what's one more?
But I
You've
was
really
thinking
done
those
it.
mead
The
really
staff
get
is
the place
yours.
moving.
Well then, consider it done.
You know, you're a fun person to drink with. I know this great little place where the wine flows like water. We should head there. Hey, you don't look so good.
Wake up. That's right. It's time to wake up, you drunken blasphemer. Of course, you don't remember getting here. I'm guessing you also don't remember coming in here and blathering incoherently about marriage or a goat. Which means you don't remember losing your temper and throwing trash all over the temple. Dibella teaches love and compassion, but that doesn't mean we're just going to tell you what you want to know and let you walk away from this. Pick up your mess, then apologize. And if we think you're sincere, we'll consider lending you aid.
From here, the Dragonborn wakes up in a completely different spot. The last thing they remember is drinking with Sam, then it was lights out. Now they're getting yelled at by a priestess of Dibella for making a mess, blabbering about marriage, something about a goat. Maybe you're getting married to a goat? Honestly, it's impossible to recall, and the only way you might remember the details is by finding Sam, but he's apparently nowhere to be found. Among the player's supposed trash, there's a note titled Repair Supplies. It reads, "We need the following to repair the broken staff: Giant's Toe, Holy Water, Hagraven Feather. Signed, Sam." Well, it's a small lead on what actually happened last night, assuming the bender only took place over the course of the nighttime.
I suppose that'll do. Dibella teaches us forgiveness after all. Even for a drunk like you. You were ranting when you got here, but most of it was slurred. You did say something about Rorikstead. Maybe you should take a look there.
Rorikstead sure is far away from Whiterun. The Dragonborn must have hopped on a horse and rode over, because that's a decent walk away. Well, exiting the Hall of Dibella, you make an even more shocking observation. Your bender has taken you all the way to the city of Markarth. You've traveled halfway across the province and have no recollection of what happened in between. Surely that can't be good, and trust me, things only get weirder. From Markarth, you fast travel to the small village and approach a farmer named Ennis. Unfortunately, Ennis also has some words for the player.
You've got a lot of nerve showing yourself in this town again. What do you have to say for yourself? Is that so? Does the name Gleda ring a bell? The star beauty of my farm? Kidnapped by a drunk lout and sold to a giant? You better remember her right fast before I call the guards and have you hauled away. You're damn right it does. I'll never breed another prize-winning goat like Gleda. And don't you think of coming back to Rorikstead until you get her back from that giant. You really don't remember stealing a goat and selling her to a giant? Are you thick? Go get her! At least she's bound to follow you back. You smell just like the fermented feed she likes.
So, the Dragonborn is that kind of drunk, eh? Not even a divine spirit can pull them away from a little alcohol-induced mischief. Now, important to note is that for all of these little meet and greets, or shall we say spat and chats, the player does have the option of pulling the necessary information out of each NPC. You can completely skip over the quest-related events and move on to the next stage of retracing your steps. However, the fun really is in the details for this one. I find it's most enjoyable to see the mayhem that you've caused and to see everyone's reaction to it. As for Gleda the goat, she can be found south of Rorikstead. Somehow, the Dragonborn was able to sell off this farm animal to a giant, which should be an accomplishment in its own right. Gleda and the giant, Grok, can be found wandering through the rocky fields of Skyrim. Even though you may have been able to negotiate with him before, Grok doesn't like this whole buyback policy that the player's trying to do. The giant turns aggressive and starts swinging for the fences. Luckily, he doesn't take his aggression out on Gleda, and the prize goat is able to run for safety. Grok is like any other giant. He hits hard, but once you find your stride, taking him down should be no problem. Once the threat is over with, the Dragonborn can return to Rorikstead and Gleda will follow behind them. As soon as Gleda is in front of Ennis, he becomes a little easier to talk to.
You talked to Reldith yet? She's like a mother to me. Gleda! And not a scratch on her. Happy day! I still can't figure out why you stole her. You left a note explaining it, but half of it was gibberish and the rest had mead spilled on it. Only bit I could make out was repaying Isolde in Whiterun, and even that's mostly scribbles. Guess you could try there. Until next time.
Repaying Isolde in Whiterun? What kind of loan could the Dragonborn have possibly taken out from her? She is a known traitor, and thinking back on it, the priestess of Dibella did mention something about a wedding. Maybe you're getting married to her? Fast traveling to Whiterun, the story continues to unfold.
So, you're finally back. Look, I've been patient, but you still owe me. Oh, what's wrong? Did the engagement fall through? Look, how about we call it even, as long as you bring back the wedding ring? That's really a shame. I was so looking forward to the wedding. You said you'd have all the most interesting guests. You went right out to give it to your fiancé. Don't you even remember where you left her? And after you told me that sweet story of how you met in Witchmist Grove, I can see why she left you. How could you forget? It was the sweetest story I'd ever heard. You met at the full moon, under the biggest tree in Witchmist Grove, surrounded by fireflies. It was straight out of a storybook.
Having no recollection of Moira, hopefully she won't be too devastated that the Dragonborn needs to break off this new engagement. So far, everyone else has been fairly understanding, so why should this one be any different? Well, fast traveling to Kynes Grove, as it's the nearest discovered location, the Dragonborn rides over to Witchmist Grove. Let's just say that the name is very appropriate for what's there. Walking up to the small cabin, the Dragonborn lays eyes on their betrothed and immediately arms themselves.
Darling, I've been waiting for you to return, to consummate our love.
This is the first time I had ever heard a Hagraven speak, and if I didn't recognize the female Argonian voice from Oblivion, it probably would have creeped me out way more.
What? You want it for that hussy Esmeralda with the dark feathers, don't you? I won't let her have you.
In terms of combat, Moira is just like any other Hagraven. She has powerful attacks, both melee and magic. It's best to end the fight before she can really get a chance to let her combos roll out. On her corpse, she has the aforementioned wedding ring. You know, it's a shame too. I'd be willing to bet that a Dragonborn Hagraven baby would be an incredibly powerful creature, but I guess we'll never know. Returning to Whiterun, the player locates Isolde and hands the ring back.
Excellent. Sorry it didn't work out. I know how excited you were for the wedding. You kept saying it would be a huge ceremony at Morvenskar. You said you even had some magic staff that would handle all of the guests.
I think it's safe to assume that this magical staff is the same one that was written about in the Hall of Dibella, although the note did say that I needed an assortment of items to repair it. Either way, Morvenskar is the next destination, and hopefully the final one too. The keep is located just southwest of Windhelm. Arriving, its current occupants are a ragtag team of rogue mages, conjurers, necromancers, battle mages, a little bit of everything. Heading on inside, the fun only continues. There are more spellcasters stationed throughout the fort. Furthermore, depending on the player's level, you're likely to encounter at least one powerful opponent. In my case, I fought against an electromancer, and he definitely had me rethinking my whole strategy here. Once the main chamber of Morvenskar is cleared, the Dragonborn gets directed to the raised corner of the room. Upon getting close to the quest marker, surprise surprise, the adventure continues. A mysterious portal opens up, and according to its nameplate, it leads to a place called Misty Grove. With no other choice, yet a mind full of curiosity, the Dragonborn steps on through and gets teleported to this unknown destination. Misty Grove is quite marvelous. Its name is very accurate. There are a bunch of trees, rocks, and there's even a creek that runs through it. There's a thick layer of mist that coats the enclosed area. Instead of a sky, there appears to be some sort of aqua-colored moving barrier. Following a stone path that's lit by lanterns, the player is led to the final area of interest. In a small clearing, there appears to be some kind of dinner party. There are almost a dozen guests, and standing at the head of the table is Sam Gwiven himself.
You're here. I was beginning to think you might not make it. I thought you might not remember your first trip here. You had a big night. I think you've definitely earned the staff. Oh, the Hagraven feather and so on. You can throw all those out. You see, I really just needed something to encourage you to go out into the world and spread merriment.
Before your very eyes, Sam transforms into a Daedra, but he's not just any demonic spawn.
I am Sanguine, Daedric Prince of Debauchery. I know. How could I lie to you? Well, how could I trust you until we've shared a few drinks? But it wasn't long before I realized you'd make a more interesting bearer of my not-quite-holy staff than this waste of flesh. Let's be honest here. I don't always think my decisions through, but you're going places. Maybe a little influence from your old Uncle Sanguine could help adjust your course a bit. My pleasure. But I think it's time for you to go. No fun keeping you locked up in here with the staff.
In the blink of an eye, the Dragonborn is cast out of Misty Grove and sent back to the Bannered Mare in Whiterun, the place where you and Sam first shared a drink. There's no sign of Sanguine, Sam, or anything quest related for that matter. However, checking your inventory, you're now in possession of the Daedric artifact, Sanguine Rose. Apart from its unique appearance, the staff's power is also quite extraordinary. It summons a Dremora for 60 seconds. Said Daedra acts as the player's temporary follower, and the kind of Dremora that spawns in is dependent on the player's overall level. Now, interestingly, it seems like Sam's influence spread to more than just the player. After completing the quest, at some point, the Dragonborn will be randomly approached by an Argonian named Deep in his Cups. He'll speak to the player as if he knows you, and believe it or not, he does. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't initiate the encounter in my game. After all, it is a random occurrence that happens whenever. However, Cups runs up to the player, tells the Dragonborn that he, quote, did it, and asks you to pay up. Confused, you ask who he is and what exactly it was that he did. Now, Cups is equally as dumbfounded that you don't remember him. He says that he was part of Sam Gwiven's drinking party and that the three of you broke into the Temple of Dibella together. Apparently, the player and Sam had dared him to go into some bandit camp. He ended up doing it and stealing someone's hat. In return, he wants to be paid for the wager that you allegedly set. The payment is 10,000 gold. From here, there are a few ways to handle Deep in his Cups. If you want to be a good drinking buddy, you can pay up, but it was an incredibly expensive dare. You can also negotiate the wager down to 750 gold, which is a lot more manageable. Otherwise, feel free to strike him down, as if you decline his request, he'll make the first move. With that, thus ends the quest, A Night to Remember. Now, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about it. As I mentioned in the beginning, I feel like this quest is mostly based around its wow factor. The Dragonborn gets drunk with Sam, wakes up not knowing what happened, and goes on an adventure to collect all of the missing details. It's the what happens next element of the story that really shines here. Everything builds up to finding Sam. When you locate him, the truth is revealed and the story comes to a wrap. As the Daedric Prince himself said, he's not even really sure why he made you do all of those things. His goal was to just spread merriment across the land. In Oblivion, Sanguine's Daedric quest is also based in trickery and mischief. Its runtime is much shorter than its successors, but similar to Skyrim's version, it's all about the fun that you had along the way. The only other mainstream Elder Scrolls game he has a quest for is Daggerfall, but his playful, lustful, and rowdy nature isn't fully established yet. Either way, at first glance, everything in this quest seems rather straightforward. However, there may be some hidden details within the plot that are a lot more telling the second time around. Let's break it down event by event. The very first part of the quest is meeting Sam in a tavern. If you didn't clue into it the first time, Sam's name is a play on of Sanguine's. Sam Goven, Sanguine. Admittedly, it did take me a little longer than it should have to make that connection. Next, Sam challenges the Dragonborn to a drinking contest. Now, I've seen the Dragonborn slug back bottles of mead and wine like it's nobody's business. Sure, there are side effects, but the player's never blacked out before. Given that the player never gets to see what it is exactly that they're drinking, that likely means one of two options. The drink is a special Daedric brew that's designed to get you intoxicated, or Sanguine slipped a little something into the Dragonborn's drink. After all, in the sense of pleasure, he prides himself on pushing people past their limits. Up next, the player wakes up halfway across the province. The Dragonborn is now in the Hall of Dibella in the city of Markarth. Firstly, there's the initial shock factor that you've been teleported away from the original tavern. Next, there's Senna scolding the player. Clearly, you've done something to upset her, and what's worse, you have no memory of how that could have happened. She then gives a little bit of insight into what you can expect from this quest: marriage and a goat. Then finally, there's even more foreshadowing with the note that's found on the ground. It makes mention of a staff, which is Sanguine Rose. Sanguine Rose also represents the crawl through Morvenskar and the passage to the Misty Grove. The note then talks about the necessary ingredients needed to repair the staff. These ingredients are actually more foreshadowing for the quest. Holy water equals the Hall of Dibella, something that's currently happening. The giant's toe represents Grok and Gleda, the mishap in Rorikstead. Then, the Hagraven feather represents Moira, the player's marriage to a witch. Now, according to the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages, there's actually a fair bit of cut content for this quest. For this portion in particular, there are some interesting things to note. For example, along with Senna, another priestess was originally supposed to confront the player. Orna was intended to be present in the hall when the Dragonborn comes to. Why her small role ended up getting removed is uncertain. According to developer message DA14 Temp Faden message, multiple priestesses were supposed to confront the player in the hall. Maybe for efficiency's sake, they were taken out, as their dialogue could have been redundant, but who really knows. Moving on, the next event is returning to Rorikstead. There, the player gets confronted by the farmer Ennis, and he needs you to rescue the goat Gleda from the giant Grok. Honestly, for this section, it's even more straightforward than the last. However, again, there are some missing pieces to this puzzle. According to the UESP, Grok was supposed to have his own line of dialogue. I can only imagine how terrifying that would have sounded. I was half expecting him to say something during our little encounter. As before, we did have a whole drunken business exchange. Grok's dialogue was simple. It would have been, "You cannot eat Gleda. Gleda is protected by Grok." While I haven't done any research myself, this shows that giants are way more sophisticated than we the fans, or at the very least, I, have given them credit for. I'm sure there are tons of videos on just how intricate these brutes really are, but maybe one day that's a topic I'll tackle on this channel. In any case, another interesting thing to note is that according to the list called DA14 NPCs, 2 more characters are called out as being a part of the story: Rorik and Reldith of Rorikstead. Again, it's not really known why their parts were cut from this quest and what role they would have played exactly. It could have been something from minor dialogue all the way to a major event. Up next, there's Isolde's wedding ring and Moira the Hagraven. The player meets with the traitor and learns of their recent romantic escapade. You've gotten engaged to someone named Moira over at Witch Miss Grove. In order to receive more information on Sam, you need to retrieve the wedding ring from your fiancé and return it to Isolde. As it just so happens, your betrothed is a Hagraven, and you end up breaking a lot more than just her heart. Like mentioned before, that was the most I have ever heard a Hagraven speak, and boy was it blood-curdling. However, it does seem as though there are a few other missions where they do speak, so it's not a one-of-a-kind experience. How exactly Sam and the Dragonborn managed to get friendly with a Hagraven, enough to get her to fall in love with your character, is beyond me. I suppose along with Messy Drunk, the Dragonborn is also a heartthrob. For this portion, there doesn't appear to be any known cut content or hidden fragments of lore. Witchmist Grove usually just contains a normal Hagraven while the quest is not active. While the shack has obvious markings of the witch, there's nothing out of the ordinary for a place that's already abnormal. Moira does mention another witch by the name of Esmeralda, accusing the player of having fallen for her instead. Unfortunately, Esmeralda never appears in the game. At the very least, there's no Hagraven with that name. It probably would have been interesting to meet with her though. That way we can all see the Dragonborn work their magic in real time. Now, really quickly, there's another little encounter that I wanted to draw attention to. It was also removed from the game, but it could possibly coincide with Deep in His Cup storyline, if you want to even call it that. According to the UESP, there are 3 unused voice recordings that likely belong to bandits. They say things like, "Once you leave the party, you can't just come back. Let's see how tough you are without Sam keeping an eye on you." And lastly, "No Sam, no protection, time to die." It's heavily believed that this would have been an after-the-fact encounter and that it wouldn't have actually played a role in the playable quest. While it's not confirmed, Deep in His Cups mentioned that he stormed a bandit camp and stole one of their hats. Maybe all 3 of you went into the camp, partied with the bandits, and as a dare, Deep in His Cups ended up stealing from one of them. It's very intriguing to think about. Then the second last location for this quest is Morvenskar. That's where the player's wedding was supposed to take place, and according to Isolde, that's where you can find your mysterious staff. Why this keep though? What's so special about it? Well, honestly, it's hard to say. My best guess is that the developers picked a dungeon that was close in proximity to Witchmist Grove, as that's where the bride would have been commuting from. The 2 locations are short distance from one another, with Morvenskar being slightly north-northwest of the grove. No matter how you approach it, the keep will always be inhabited by warlocks. Now really, the most interesting part of this fort is an unused NPC. According to the UESP, a drunk cultist was supposed to be waiting for the player at the base of the steps that lead to the portal. I think it's appropriate to assume that she was one of Sanguine's cultists. A possible explanation for her being there is that maybe she was supposed to usher you into the portal. As it was, the quest marker just sort of awkwardly pointed to a random part on the floor. Then, when I got close to it, the portal popped up. Maybe there was supposed to be dialogue with the cultist and that would have triggered the doorway to Misty Grove. But again, it's anyone's guess. Then, that leads me to the final portion for this quest, Misty Grove itself. This is a very fascinating place. Clearly, the Dragonborn is not on Nirn anymore. This is a pocket realm of Oblivion, which can be referred to as one of the myriad realms of Revelry. These worlds are controlled by Sanguine, but according to the lore, he chooses a more passive form of ruling. There's a small quote from the book on the nature of Oblivion written by Canan Mildil that I'd like to draw attention to. To expound further, what we call Oblivion does not hold life in contempt, but it does not care about upholding or maintaining life either. This results in quite a large number of realms colliding with each other, as their nature and direction dictate. Many planes are fortunate to have a Daedric prince or other force controlling their movement through Oblivion. The ones that do not are often crushed by the path their undirected course dictates. Evidence of these ill-fated planes can be seen in the watery reflections of the realms of Revelry or in the dreams of Quagmire. Essentially, this book discusses what Oblivion is and what exactly happens there. These realms/worlds/planets drift through the space. They're at risk of colliding with one another, but the ones that have present leaders, say the Shivering Isles or Cold Harbor, are safe from said catastrophe. However, the realms of Revelry are not. Since there are so many of them, literally hundreds of thousands, Sanguine's worlds are constantly colliding with others. This destroys, changes, and it also creates. So, once upon a time, odds are that Misty Grove was once a very different place, and at any time, the world can change once again. Apart from the mesmerizing visuals and the 9 NPCs, including Sam, there's unfortunately not a whole lot to discover here. Sam's dialogue is purely quest-based, and the 8 commoners only offer simple one-liners. Misty Grove as a place isn't really that large either. You can try to explore it, but there's nothing interesting to find. It's all trees, rocks, creeks, and people. It is fascinating to think about the what-ifs for this quest though. What if the Dragonborn really had gone all in with Sam's plans, marrying Moira and partying with Sanguine in the Misty Grove for all eternity? There's certainly a universe where that happened, but that probably wouldn't have made for a very exciting game. Or maybe it would have. Who am I to judge? A Night to Remember is exactly as its name dictates. It's a fun quest for the player to embark on, and it's entertaining to piece the night back together. I'd love to know your thoughts on this quest down below, and until next time, keep on adventuring.